Hello and welcome to another lesson in our Python programming. And in this lesson, we are going to be creating our first desktop app with graphical user interface, that is GUI, with Python and TK inter module. But then before we start, let me quickly bring you up to speed on something, and that is about the TK inter we are going to be using to create our graphical user interface. Basically, the TK inter is a Python module that is used to design graphical user interface for Python applications, that is for desktop. It's a full course on its own, but it's very unfortunate our program or our training TK inter is not part of it. But then the package I promised to give to you guys at the end of the training, fortunately for us, there is a complete course video tutorial on TK inter, which you can learn if you have interest in it. So this particular lesson, the apps we're going to be creating using this TK inter module is just for you to see how it works. But then I'll try as much as possible to explain how some of the functions and then the codes work. So after this, and you have interest in it, then you can decide that no, if I learn Python, I'm able to write my programs in Python, then I'll be using TK inter for my graphical user interface applications, that is for desktop. Python, we say, can be used to do a lot of things. We talk of that is web development of websites, development of softwares, games, artificial intelligence, and a lot of things Python can be used to do. And we have Python frameworks that we can use to do all this. We have Django, that is if you want to learn about web development, you don't have to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. With Python and then Django framework, you can develop any websites. Secured one, of course, with Python. That is that. We can also use another framework we call Flask. They are all there. And fortunately for us, we have another complete course on Django in the same package I'll be giving to you. So those who would like to go to that site that is using Python for web application can also enjoy that video, of course. And those who would like to use the TK inter in developing their various applications, after this, it is up to you to explore over the website, over the internet, search for information, how to create basic apps in Python. Now you've gotten the basics at least. So this is how it's going to be. So we're going to dive right into it for now. So until when I give you the package, you have everything in the package to explore without limits. So that is that. So let's dive right into this. Now the first app we're going to be creating is called I call it the PDF engine. I decided to name it like that. You can just name it the way you want. It's a piece of software that is used to extract text from what a PDF file. So basically that is what it does. So let me quickly show you a demo of it. I've already created some, so let me just show you it. With this one, what it does is that it can only extract texts and not images. I've created another one which does both. It can extract text at the same time images, but as a beginner we don't have to go deep into that to get us confused. Some of the codes in Python, in fact, if I should show you how they look like here, some might not even like to learn Python again. To be sincere to you, as a beginner you need to start with a small project like what we are going to be designing in code before you go into big ones as time goes on. That is, if your interest keeps growing, then you will decide on what to do and what not to do. So that is that. Let me just show you a quick demonstration on how the application works. So let me just open this. For now I haven't make it executable, so I have it here. So after I can do that, so you can see it opens with command prompt. So this is the app we're going to be creating. I already have a logo like this which we are all going to be using, but if you think you can customize your own logo, you can do that, and then I'll show you where to keep the logo, and then we can be able to work with it. So basically that is that. So this is the app or the software we're going to be creating. So you just click on this browse, and then you begin navigated to your what desktop or wherever your PDF file is located. Then you click on it, and then you just click on open, and then it will extract all the text in PDF. So this is just a simple and then very interesting program. So this is what we are going to be creating. So let's quickly dive right into it. So let me just close it here, and then after this, when we are done creating our apps, then we can then learn how to make them executable, and that'll be our final video for our training. So let's quickly dive right into this. Now, if you don't have a PDF file like this on your desktop, you can quickly create simple one. Just right click on your desktop, you go to new, then you just go to Word, choose Word or Microsoft Word, whatever. So you can name it my file, something like that, my file. Then just press the enter key twice to open it. So after opening it, you can just get a demo text here. You can just use equal sign, and you just type lorem into brackets. You can define the number of paragraphs you want and all that, and quickly close your bracket, and you press enter, and you have your text displayed here. So after this, you can just go to, first of all, you can save it. For after that, just go to file again, save as, then you go to your desktop or whatever, then you come and choose PDF, and you can give it any name of your choice, like my file PDF, something like that. Then after that, you can just click on save. So you can close this, then you should have it here. So this is it, my file PDF. This is the PDF document I've just created. If you don't have one, you can create it just as you've seen me doing here. So after that, we are done with that. Now let's quickly, before we start, we need a folder where we can organize our stuff in. So you just right click on the desktop, create a folder. You can name it app 1, or maybe the first app, whatever name you want. You can give it, so app 1. So now we need the particular image you're going to be using for your the interface or the background of your software. You can choose to customize it by yourself, but make sure it is in this folder. I already have one. The one I used to create mine is already here, and just locate it and then use it. I will leave it on the Telegram channel as well, so that those of us who may be interested to use the same thing can also go for it. I'll just copy it from here and then paste it inside this folder, the app 1 folder. So basically, that is that. The next thing we're going to do is right click inside this folder and go to new, and then from there you just go to text document. Then after that, you can name it, give it any name you want, like maybe PDF extract, or maybe PDF to text, right? Okay, to text, something like that. You can name it that way. Then after that, now this is one thing I would like you, let me quickly go back so I don't confuse you guys. I don't want it this way. Now you just have to let me delete this. After opening your folder like this, just make sure you maximize it in this view. Then you go to your view tab. On the view tab, you make sure this file name extension checkbox is what? Check. Make sure it's ticked like this. That is what will make us see the extension of our file. As you can see, the name of the file is logo. The extension is what? PNG. I don't have to talk about file extension stuff here. That is not what we are here for. So you can choose to check on that. But the extension of the file is what? PNG. So if you click on this, you see that the extension is hidden. Actually, every Windows come by default hides extension on for every file, but in this case we want it to show so that we can modify it the way we want. So make sure this is selected, and then it will show the extension of the file for you. So that is that. Then after that, right click inside, you go to new, then you come to text document, and then you give it a PDF to text, right? Something like that. And make sure you change this .text to .py. That is Python file extension. PDF to text.py. Then you press the enter key twice, and then you have it changed to this Python logo for you. So we are good to go. Then after that, you can just quickly launch your text editor, that is Pycharm, and from there you proceed and go to file. Click on file. Oh, I don't know why file is misbehaving. Then you come to open. So in open, you just locate desktop. Click on this to get a desktop. So on desktop, we have your folder here. That is the app 1 folder. Double click to open it, and you just click on your PDF to text file here. After selecting it, just click on OK. This should open here for you like this. Then after that, for us to make sure that everything is working, you just have to issue some print command here like that. So just print into brackets, then you just print something. Let's say, sorry, hello. world, something like that. Then for you to run it, don't just run it at once, because this is a new file we've just created, so we have to go through the process. So you just come to run, and you come to run here, then you choose it. This is it, PDF to text, then you just click to run it, so you have hello world displayed here. Now let's minimize this and confirm something here. Double click to open your folder, right click on this Python file, then you point towards edit with IDLE, then you click on this, so it opens, and then you have hello world written inside it here for you. So you can close it now, and we are good to go with it. So, and don't forget, if you are using your custom image, make sure you know the image of your file you are using here. If you are using this one, you all know the name by default, logo.png. Basically that is it. Make sure it is in the same folder here. Close this now. So let's go back here. Now we know that everything is up and running. So after writing everything, we just have to come and save all, right? So that is that. Now we can begin writing our first app. So the first thing we need to do is to import our KingTech module. So we say import KingTech. So we just press enter to complete it. Then as for TK, we want to import it as TK, so that the reason why we are importing it as TK is that we don't have to be writing TK inter. Instead of TK inter, write TK for short. So that is that. We are going to import another thing which you haven't yet installed, and I will advise you to what? Install it, and I will show you how to do that. We've already installed some of the packages, but this one is not yet installed. So I'm going to guide you on how to install it. So we say import. What is that? That is PyPDF2. This is it, PyPDF2. That is it. Then the next thing we are going to be installing is importing is the pillow. But with the pillow package, the pillow, as you just know, the pillow PILLOW is the same thing. But the pillow package, we're not going to take everything out of it. We just need something out of it. So we say we just need some of the classes out of it and not everything. So from PIL in capitals, from pillow, that means pillow. Say import. We're going to import the image class in it, image, then comma, and then we're going to import another thing again, that is image TK. That, so we are done with that. This image TK, this module contains support to create and modify the KingTech photo images. This is what is going to help us modify the image we want to be using as our logo. We can twist it the way we want anyhow. It is by the help of this particular image TK class. So basically that is that. Now, like I said, you don't have this one installed. That is the PyPDF2. You don't also have pillow installed. So to do that, you just come to your terminal. As usual, you just come pip install, then you type the same thing, PyPDF2, then you hit enter, it will install. But make sure you are connected to the internet. Currently I'm not connected to the internet. Then when you are done, the next thing is to what? Install another package which is called the pillow. That is PILLOW. That is just for pillow, this one. Like this, you just pip install pillow, then you hit enter, it will also install it. They don't have any issues at all. They are very simple and easy to install. So you make sure you do that before we proceed. Then as time goes on, if there's a need we import another thing too, we'll see how it goes. So for now, let's begin writing our code. So we go for root. These are some of the KingTech codes. So you go for root and assign it to what? A TK, so TK dot. Then we call on the TK class again, then we open this. So this is just the beginning of the interface. This particular line of code is just the beginning of our interface. So now we need the end of it. Like we said, the end must be something like roots dot main loop, then self. So like this. So now we said for a program to give us the flexibility for us to use it over and over, it must be in a loop. So everything that we're going to be writing here, that will enable us to what? Import text, extract a text from PDF over and over, is because it is in this particular two lines of codes, this loops. So that is what will enable us to be able to use the app anyhow we want it, several times and all that. So that is that. So everything that we're going to be writing is going to be inside here. Now when we run this, we should see something like this. A very sweet, beautiful graphical user interface appearing here. So this is what we are going to be working with. So this is just the beginning of our application. So we can stop it for now, and then now all we need to do is to give it a title. We don't want this TK to be there. So you already know the title you want to give to your software. So I already know mine. So you can choose to do that. Then after that, we look at the next thing. The next thing we're going to do is to give it a title. So we say call on the root keyword again. So root dot title, then into bracket. The title must be a string. So I can call it PDF engine, right? I decided to name it like that, PDF engine or something like that. You can choose to name it the way you want. So now when we run it, we should see it appearing here like this, PDF engine, like this. Very sweet and beautiful. So now the thing is, we want to give the app a customized height and width. We don't want it to be what, maximized like this and all that. We don't want it that way. So we have to give it a customized height and width. So we have to disable this for now. Disable this so that it cannot be maximized. So now to do that, let's stop it now from running. Then we go and say call on the root keyword again, say roots dot resizable, then into bracket, then we set height to be false. False means we don't want the height to be increased. Then comma, then width also to be what, false. So you can Control S to save this, and when you run it, you should see this disabled. So it means we can't increase it or do whatever we want with it. So we want to give it a customized, what do you call it, height and width. So that is that. Now let's proceed. So by now everything is now up and running. Now the next thing we are going to do is, now let's see how we can also enlarge it a bit, because as it stands now it is very small. So we're going to use the canvas keyword. So we call on the canvas. All these are the TK inter classes we are calling here. Canvas equal to TK dot, then the canvas here should be in capitals. The first canvas is in small. So the second, start with the small letter, as you can see, canvas. So take note of this. They can easily throw errors if you misspell them here. So say canvas TK dot canvas into bracket, then we root it to, then we define, then comma, then we define width for it. Width is equal to something like, let's say 600, be okay, then comma, and then the height should be something like maybe 400, something like, or maybe okay, 300 will be okay. So now let's before we can initialize our changes, we have to call the grid class. So we say canvas dot grid into brackets, then we have to give a column span for it. So say column span equal to something like maybe 3. Then from there, this column span property will split our interface into 3 invisible parts with precision. You can't see the way it is divided, but naturally it has been done that way. So let's run it and see how it goes. So we have our interface now like this up and running, so we can quickly go ahead and add whatever we want to still add here. So that is that. So let's proceed. Now the next thing we are going to do is this. Let's see how we can just add our logo quickly, then we proceed to the next thing. So to do that, we are going to declare a variable called logo, then we assign it to the image class from the image TK we have imported, and then the photo images class inside the image TK. So that is that. For now, you might not understand all this, because like I said, you just have to learn TK Inter as a course on its own. And like I said, fortunately we have the video in our package. You can just learn it, and then it will be easy for you as anything. That is that. So just declare variable. So logo equal to, you say image dot, we want to use this class to open the image dot open. Then what is the name of our file? We name it logo.png, right? Logo. You can see the when you begin typing, because it's in the same folder, it will just begin popping up. Then you just press enter, then you have it up and running there. So that is that. Now the next thing is, we have to now initialize our logo again. So we call on the variable logo again, assign it equal to, then we say image, call on the image TK rather, that is image TK dot photo. Please the spelling should be well done. Other than that, it will throw errors for you, so be very careful and relax and don't rush when doing that. Then we are done initializing with that, so we have to declare another variable called logo label, how we want the logo to appear in our interface. So we call it logo label. Then we assign it to the tk.label class. So it's a tk.label. Then we have to then call on our image and then assign it to logo. So we say image. The image we are importing there is going to be used as what? Logo. So we call on the logo variable. So that is that. Now the next thing we are going to do is to call the logo label.image class, and then we assign it back to logo again before we can then initialize this to what? Save our changes and run it, and that is what to make our logo appear in it. So let's just go ahead and then call on logo, or logo label rather, logo label.image, dot image is equal to the logo we are using. So basically that is that. So the last thing we are going to do is to call the logo label.grid class, and that is what is going to make it run in our loop. So we say logo.grid, or logo label dot grid, then into bracket, then we have to define column for it. This dot grid is what is going to position it in our interface for us. So we call on the column is equal to something like 1, and then the next thing is the row should be 0, so it will just appear inside the interface like that, 0. So now let's run it and see the outcome. So you can see that we have our logo inside the interface. So whatever logo you decide to customize by yourself, you see it appearing like this here without any issue. Now the next thing we are going to do is to add some instructions to our app. So let's quickly see how we can quickly do that. Instructions such as when the user runs the program, there should be some instruction telling the user that do this to be able to do this, right? So something like that, instructions I'm talking about. So let's quickly see how we can handle that. Now to do that, we're going to declare a variable called instructions. Instructions. Then we assign it equal to tk dot say label. Then we route it. Then we route it to the text we are going to what? Display inside the interface, right? So text route should be comma here. Text. Then the text is going to be something like, when the user opens the app, there should be something like select a PDF file on your computer to extract all its content or something like that. So basically that is that. So we say select a PDF file from your computer to extract all its text. So basically something like that, right? Now we want to, this particular text, we want to set the font of it to you can choose to give it any font of your choice that is running on your PC. So I want to give it a font like something like railway, or something like that, railway. So let's quickly run it and see how it's going to be. So no, we haven't yet initialized it with the grid class, so it wouldn't appear. You can see how that works. So let's do that. So we say instructions.grid, then we give it a column span that would show us where it's going to be. Is equal to something like 3, then comma, Then column itself is equal to 0. Column is equal to 0. And finally, we want the row to be equal to something like 1, equal to 1, something like that. So now let's run it quickly and see how it's going to be. So we have our text here. It says select a PDF file from your computer to extract all its text and all that. So now my advice for you is this: you can choose to be manipulating these numbers here to see how where the text is going to appear on your interface. So it's a way of learning it. So that is that. So let's proceed. Now the next thing we are going to do is to add a browse button, something like, let's see how it goes. Add a browse button somewhere here. See it somewhere here, so that, or maybe somewhere below this. So we will be lifting this text up, or maybe I don't know. So for now, let's see how it's going to be. They're going to be bringing adding a button here, a browse button, so that when you click on it, you should be navigated to your computer where you can choose your file, just as you saw when I was demonstration how the app works for you. So let's stop it and proceed to do that. Now with that, there are two things to do that. The first thing is we have two things we want the button to do for us. The first one is opening a browser or the browse dialog box to locate the file from our computer. That is the first thing the button is going to do for us. Then the second thing will be something like changing the text from browse to loading depending on the state of the app. Now what's going to happen is this: if we have the button here, by default we should see the text on it saying browse. When we click on it, it should navigate us toward our computer where we can choose our file. So that is the first thing. Then after choosing the file, when the file is being loaded, you should see something like loading to tell you that it's loading. When loading is done, we want the text to change from what? Loading back to what? Browse. So that is what we are talking about here. So quickly, let's see how we can easily do that. So let's proceed. So let's stop it and then see that. So they're going to declare a variable called browse text, right? So say browse, something like this, text. Then we assign it equal to tk, something like that, tk dot string var, this particular string var function. And then from there we now call our browse button class. It's a browse button. This will be equal to, we just have to give it something like btn, call it a browse btn. So browse btn, this is equal to what? tk.button, and call it tk class dot button, dot button into bracket. Then we route it to the text variable. So we route it to the text variable. I will explain to you what's happening here. Text variable equal to something like a browse text, right? Yes. Then comma. They want to give the font. I'll be explaining to you, please. The font should be something like the same font I'll be using here, called the railway here, something like that. Basically what we are doing is this: like I said, we want to add a button to our app, so that when we click on it, we can browse and locate our PDF file, something like that. So to do that, we call on the browse text class, and then we assign variable. We declare a variable called browse text. Then we assign it to what? A tk class, which is called what? The string var. Then from there, we now call on the button itself. Now call it that is the browse button. We assign a variable for it, and then we assign that one to equal to what? The button class. So this will call the button. You know, the button has already been designed and stored in a particular code. So this is a function, right? We talk of function. This is a function, and what it does is that it displays a button at a point where you want it on your interface. So that is what it does. So now we route it to what? The text variable. The text we would like to what? Display on that particular button is what we are talking about. That is the browse text. So the font of the text should be what? Railway. So basically that is that. Now the next thing we're going to do is we call on the text.set class, and then we pass in the name we want, or the content we want to be on the button, that is browse, something like that. So we call on the browse, so we say browse text, right? So say browse text dot set. You want to set it to something here like browse for now. That is by default. When you launch it, you should see something like browse on the button to tell you that you have to browse and then locate your file from your computer. So basically that is that. So now to initialize it, we have to call on the browse button dot read. So you say browse btn dot read. Then we can then define a column for it, what you want it to be. Column is equal to 1. We want it to be just under, right? So 1, and then the row should be equal to something like 2. So you can just save it and then you run it and see. Like you can run it, choose to run it by now. So you can see the button here for now. But with the look of things, the button is not looking so nice as it stands now. It's the color of it looks just the same as the interface we have here. So basically that is that. So like I said, you can just be manipulating the numbers to see how it's going to work. So now let's proceed. So let's see how we can change the interface a bit, change the appearance of the browse button and other few things that we can do to be able to make our app up and running. Now we are going to deal with the gaps around our button here by declaring some property which is called the row span, so that we can get some nice borders around our browse button here. So let's see how that is going to be done. So we come to our line 9 here and give a comma, and we call on the row span, then we assign it to what? 3. So now let's run it and we see the difference there. You can see that now around our button we have some nice borders. It's no more very closer to the edges here anymore. So that is that. Now the next thing we are going to do is, that the button now looks a bit way some style is. We don't want it this way. We need to maybe style it a bit, right? So now let's do that. So to do that, we have to add some parameters here. We have to add some parameters there, like something like that would be parameters like maybe font size, whatever, and then just to make it look nice, right? Background color, and then all that. So let's go ahead and do that. So we call on the background, that is the BG. The background color should be something like okay, let me use this color code. This particular color code is you can browse on color codes and then see how they work. This particular color code looks something like green-like in nature, right? So you see how it's going to be something like light green. I want it to be in line or the same color as the text in my logo, something like that. So let's see how it goes. So we call on the BG, that is the background. It's equal to, then we use the hashtag, then we bring 20, that is the code, the color code here, maybe. And then now let's run this and see the changes for now. So you can see that it has given it some green, light green, which is in line with this, right? So that is what I'm trying to do. So now let's stop it here and then proceed again, add some more parameters here. So the next thing is something like why don't we add some foreground, so that our text color here, the text color here, the text color will be something like white here, something like that, so that it will also be in line with this. Let's stop it and then we add, that will be FG, so that means foreground, then it should be something like white. Let's run it and see. So you can see that it's also white, like that. Looks good. And now the next thing is, let's see how we can define the height. Maybe the way it looks a bit smaller. So we define height and then the width of it again. So we say height equal to something like 2, and then width also to be something like 15 or something like that, right? So now let's run it, so you can see that it's a bit bigger now. then looks awesome. So basically that is that. Now let's add some margin between the browse button and then the interface. So let's quickly see how we can do that. Now we've already written some codes in the canvas here, so we don't have to rewrite them again. Just copy them and come and paste them and do the necessary changes. P1, so Control C to copy, and quickly come down here, just below here, then Control V to paste. Now we can just do some changes stuffs here. Now let's do away with this row span. We don't need it, so we do away with it, and then we change this to, we maintain the width to be 600, then we change this to what, 250, something like that stuff. So say 250, and from there we proceed and run it and see how it's going to be. So you can see that we now have this here, a very nice space here, where maybe after extracting our file, we can create a text box here where the file is and the text is going to be inside. So something like that stuff. So then let's proceed and see how we can do. The next thing is, for now you can see that still there is no functionality in the browse button, something like that. So now whenever we click on it, nothing happens. So now we have to go ahead and then create a function to initialize that. But before we can do that, we need to import another thing from TK-Inter again. Then from there we come back and write our function. So basically after writing our function, we can then route our function to our browse button, so that when we click on it quickly, it works as we expect it. So let's stop this. Now let's go up here, and then we come and say again, from, sorry, it shouldn't be this. So from TK-Inter, the second one, from TK-Inter dot file dialog, we want to import something like ask. I'll explain something here for you, please. Ask open file. Now from TK-Inter, we are importing a class which is called the file dialog box. The file dialog box that open where you can browse and locate your file. So we are importing a class which is called ask open file. Another class, this is what will prompt you to what, select the file, and then when you click on open, then it opens the way you want it to open. So that is that. So that is what we have just imported. So the next thing is we're going to create our function somewhere here. I would prefer it here. We'll create it anyway, but then I prefer the function to be somewhere under the instruction. So basically that is where it's going to be. So we start creating our function, right? So we call on the define keyword and say def. So we want to give it a name, say open file. Then here we don't need to pass or to define any parameters for our function. Now we are going to call our browse text, what do you call it? Initially when we run our program, what we see here to be is this text on the button, right? Let me see. It will throw error because I've just started adding some codes which I haven't initialized. So definitely it should do that for me. It's not surprise. So what we are doing right now is this. After when we run our app, the first thing is we see this browse on the button. So what we want the function to do for us is that when we click on browse and then we are loading the file, we want this browse text to change to what, loading. So that's what we are trying to do. So we call on the browse text.sets, and we want to set the text there to what, loading, something like this, so that whenever the text is being loaded into the app, then we see this text appearing on the browse on the button saying loading, something like that. So we want to declare another variable called file. Then we set it, or we assign it equal to what, the ask open file. Ask open file. Now we want to call a class, the parents class, then we assign it to the root. So this is where you can begin routing it to our what, the button from here. So we call on the RB, sorry, no, the mode rather. So the mode, this is equal to, then we call on the RB here. Then then the title of it should be something like choose a file. Yeah, we want to see something like that. Choose a file. So we go to choose a file, something like that. Choose a file and comma. Then the next thing is file type. What file type are we going to choose? That is a PDF file, right? Not any other file. So file, type equal to, call on this, open this square bracket, then you open a parenthesis, then you bring your inverted commas, then PDF in capitals and space file, PDF file. Now we need to show the extension of our file. So comma, the extension of the file is .pdf, right? We talk of extensions some few minutes ago, so we call it. So before we do that, you bring asterisk and then .pdf. So that will be the extension of the file. So basically that is the file we're going to be opening. Now let's see something here. Now what is going to happen is this: we are going to make a decision. After taking the file, we want something to show that we have taken the file into the app, right? That is what we want now. So let's do something here. So we say if file, meaning if file is selected. That's what I'm trying to say. If file, let's terminate it here. If file is selected, then something should happen. For now, I wouldn't add any functionality for now. Let's just use some simple print statement to see something here. If file wants a statement like file was successfully loaded, something like that. We want it to print in the console for us to see for now. It was successfully loaded, something like that. So but for now it wouldn't work unless we then route it to our what do you call it, the button here, something like this. So after here we're going to begin routing it. So we call on the command equal to the lambda function, then this we call on the open file, then comma. So I think we are done. Now let's run it now and see how it's going to be for us. Yes, so for now it's like our button will begin working now. So you can see that the text has now changed from what browse to loading. That means the function is now working here. So when we choose our file, we want to see a message. Let me explain this to you before I proceed. What we have done is this: we are now writing a function to our browse button, so that when we click it, something happens, right? What should happen? It should open a file dialog box for us, and that is the model we have just imported from here. We want it to open a file dialog box for us. When it opens that, then we proceed and choose a file. Now if file is selected, we want something to show here. For now, we are not going to do something in the app, but we want something like this to show in the console here to tell us that the file has been successfully loaded, something like that. So let's run it over again. Select. Now we choose a PDF file here. When we open it, now let's see in the console. You see it, file was successfully loaded, but we don't want to work with the console for now. We want everything to be done in the app. So let's proceed. So we're going to do away with this what do you call it, the print function. We're going to do away with the print function, and then we go ahead and then execute the commands or the steps we need to take effect after the file has been loaded successfully. So basically that is that. So we do away with the print command. After doing the print command, now what we want to happen is this: a file is selected, we want to read the PDF file. After reading the PDF file, then we declare a variable called page. Then we assign it to the read PDF .get page class. That is what is going to get the page on which the text is. Then we declare another variable called page content. Then we assign it to page.extract class text. That is the class that is going to extract the text for us. Now after the text has been extracted, then we would like to display the text in the console here for now. Now let me just do it so that I see what I'm talking about. So we say read. That is, if the file is selected, we want to read something. So we call on we declare a variable called read PDF. This is equal to, then we assign it to what? By PDF2. Then dots. We call on the PDF file reader to read the file for us. It's already selected. You can see here. So you just hit enter. Then into bracket, then you pass in the file, the variable file. So when the file is selected, when this file is selected here, it is going to what? Be read by the PDF by the PDF module. It will read it. Then after reading, the next thing we want to assign a declare variable called page. It will assign it to what? After it has been read, now we want it to take something from the page for us. So we call on the read PDF dots the get page class. Now we want it to get something from the page for us, some content. So we pass in a parameter which is called 0. It means we want it to take the content from the page for us. Now the next thing is, after taking the page content, we have to declare a variable called page content. So let's declare variable page content. Page content. Then we assign it to what? The page.extract text class, and that is what is going to extract the text from what? The PDF file. So we say page dot extract text, something like this. So after the text has been extracted, we want it to be in our app so that we can do whatever we want with the text, isn't it? But for now, we haven't yet designed our text box where the text is going to be what? Poured inside after it has been extracted. So for now, we'd like to print something like page content so that we see that is what is going to show us that the content has been what? Extracted. So for now, the content of the PDF file is going to be extracted and then poured inside this console for us. So let's do that. So we call on the print function. We say print page content, something like this. So now when we run this, it's going to be what? It's going to extract the content on the PDF file and then pour it inside console. You know, whenever we call on the print function, what it does is that it displays something in the console. I hope you remembered that. Now let's run it and see something. Now let's browse and locate our file. Let's select our PDF file and then you click on open. Oh, sorry, there's a problem somewhere. Okay, let me just locate where the problem is coming from. The error. Yeah, the error is as a result of the ask open file class here. It should be ask open file and not ask open files. So let's change it. Let's remove the s there and then locate where we call this that class and then change that as well before it throws another error. So let's look for ask open file here. So let's correct this as well. So now I think we'll be good to go. Let's rerun it again. Stop and run it over again. So when we browse and we go for our file and then open, see that very good. It has just extracted the content and then deposited and display everything inside the console. But here is the catch. We don't want anything to be displayed in the console. We want it to be in the app or the software so that the user can collect it and use it for whatever they want to use it for. So let's see how we can then fix that. To do that, what we need to do is to create a text box where the text can be what? Deposited into. So to do that, we're going to do away with this print statement here. So very good. Now let's declare a variable called text box. Then we assign it to tk dot text. Then inside the parenthesis, then we root it, comma. Then we give it a height. Height should be equal to something like, let's say 10, comma, and then width, that is the text box, right, should be something like 50, comma, and then we give it the padding x, that is the horizontal padding. So we say pad x, that will be equal to something like 15, comma, and padding y, that is the vertical, that will be something like 15 as well. So basically that is that. Now let's proceed and then call our text box and then ask it to insert the content inside the text box. So let's do that. So we call on the text box dot insert, call the insert class dot insert inside to 1.0 page content. We want it to display it or put or deposit everything, pour all the content from our PDF file inside the text box. Now let's initialize it by calling the text box bridge, textbox.bridge. Then we define a column for it where we want it to be. We want it to be, when I run it now, let me see. We want it to be somewhere here, around here, something like that, so that after it's been extracted, it deposits inside it. Column that will be equal to something like 1, then comma, then row. Okay, let me give it a column to be 2, comma, then row to be something like 3. Good. Now let's run it and see what's going to happen. Let's browse, get our PDF file, extract it. Oh, where the file is deposited is not good. So let's change the column. Let's change the column to 1 so that it can come somewhere here. Good. Let's change the column to 1. Let's run it now and see. Let's go for our PDF file. Let us select it. Cool. So we have our text extracted and then displayed inside here for us without any issue. Now let's check something. We can see that after everything, when the files the text is extracted, we still have this loading stuff here. So we need to set it back to what? Browse for that. So with this loading, if we should click again, you'll be prompted to what? Maybe enter another file again or upload another file again for extraction. We don't want it like that. We want it to what? Change back to what? Browse. So let's do that. So quickly we come back here after the text here. So we come back to the down here. So we call on the browse text.set class variable rather. So we say browse text.set. Then we now set it to what? Back to browse. Something like this. So it's going to be a string. So let's run it again and see. Browse, load our file, after extraction, back to browse. So I think our file is up and running and everything is working perfectly. So basically we are done creating our app. That is the first app using the Python and then the KingTech module that for our graphical user interface. So basically that is that. Now what you need to take away from this is this. Like I said, we haven't touched anything about KingTech. So for now, all what happened in this video is just going to be like a story I'm telling. But like I said, the good news is that in the package I promised, there is a complete course on KingTech inside there. So you can learn it very well there, master it, and then when you come back to this, you see that it is just going to be a piece of cake, walk on a park for you. Very simple. So basically I think that is that. Now let's close this and then save. Just click on save all, and we can then close this one. So after closing, we should have everything inside our what do you call it? I decided to pull this text, these PDF files here. You can just bring them back out. You need them here. So that is that. It can be here. So you can run this one alone. So with this, click on browse. Just go to desktop. Get your PDF file, extract your text so you have your text. So your app is, or your software is up and running without any issue. So now the next thing we're going to do is this. We are going to create our second app, third, and then maybe the fourth one. When we are done, then we then see how we can make them executable. So for now, you have your first app packed here. So the second one is going to be what? App 2. So that will be our next tutorial or our next lesson, and it's going to be something like text to speech app. So till then, say thank you very much for watching, and then bye for now.